So deputies were called out here to 9535 86th Avenue North here in Seminole about 3:30 this afternoon. There was a female who lived at that address, and her name is Cheryl, and I'll spell the last name for you. It's Karpinez. Karpinez. She's a white female. Her date of birth is August 24th, 1953. And she had gone to a neighbor's house because the neighbor was working on his car. She didn't like the fact that the neighbor was working on his car and gave him a hard time about it and said this is not a garage, and they got into an argument about it because she felt he shouldn't be working on his car in the driveway. She then struck him in the chest, hit him, and went back to her home. Because he was struck, he called the sheriff's office. Deputies came out, went to the house to make contact with her, went around the back to a porch area, and when they went around the back to the porch area, she was sitting there and she had a revolver handgun, and she took it out and she pointed it at the deputies. There was a sergeant and a deputy. They immediately responded by tactically taking cover. They didn't shoot at her, didn't fire at her, and she went back into her house. They then approached the front of the house, tried to make contact with her. She came to the door, they couldn't see her hands, and she wouldn't open the door and went back further into the home. Since about 3:30 this afternoon, we've been trying to make contact with her. We tried to make telephone contact with her, she wouldn't answer. We set up a perimeter around the house. We did what we call hail the house, which is to use a armored vehicle to loudly announce and ask her to come out. We did that for several hours. We got no contact and couldn't establish communication with her at all. So just about 15 minutes ago, deputies went in to the home. It was a SWAT team entry into the home, and she was found deceased in the bed. She had shot herself in the head, and she's deceased, so it was a suicide. She has an extensive history of mental health issues, extensive history of Baker Acts, does have a criminal history, but I think unfortunately and sadly this is an example of a situation of people we face all the time with very, very significant mental health issues, and she had been in the mental health system, but the mental health system wasn't able to help her. According to family, she has a sister who we spoke to, her son is here on scene, as this has been an ongoing issue with her for a long time. In fact, the family had pretty much given up on her and really didn't want anything to do with her because they're so frustrated about these mental health issues. So it's really a sad situation, and somebody, we see these cases way too often. You know that there's about 200,000 Baker Acts that occur in the state of Florida every year, about 12,000 here in Pinellas County. And she's one of those that was a recidivist in the mental health system, but unfortunately she couldn't get the help, and we end up in this kind of a situation. But no deputies are hurt, nobody else is hurt. Sadly, she's deceased from that self-inflicted gunshot wound, and that's really the entire situation.
Gotcha. Sounds to me like they had the right to, they could have fired upon her when she aimed the gun at her. They showed tremendous restraint.
Yeah, the deputies could have, certainly when she pointed that gun at them, and it was clearly a revolver, it was a silver revolver, and when she raised it at them, yeah, they could have, and they were in a position where they could take cover tactically and that they were safe. So they handled it extremely well.
What, do you guys have any idea when the gunshot was fired? Did you guys hear it?
No, we didn't hear it. So what happened is that they saw her by the front door, and when she wouldn't answer, they couldn't see her hand at that point because she had already pointed the gun at them once. There were only two deputies here, and they set up a perimeter the best they could, but it took time to get other deputies here to set up a perimeter. And when we were setting up that perimeter, so it could have been shortly after that, I can tell you that from the time the perimeter was set up, we didn't hear a gunshot. So, it's a fair inference that it happened early on, especially since we had been trying to establish contact with her, and she wouldn't respond either to the hailing or to the phone calls or any effort. So, it's a fair inference that it probably happened early on. Yeah.
Thanks,
all right, guys. Yep, no problem.